The Bold and the Beautiful, Last Dance of Deceit. Quinn Fuller's return to Los Angeles sent shockwaves through Forrester Creations, and not just because of the name she carried or the scandalous legacy she left behind. Her reappearance, gaunt and frail, with hollowed eyes and trembling hands, wasn't for forgiveness or reconciliation. It was a bombshell. Stage 4 bone cancer. The once feared jewelry designer, known for her sharp tongue and sharper designs, stood before her estranged ex-husband Eric Forrester, her former rival Donna Logan, and her current husband Carter Walton, and delivered what she claimed was her final truth. Eric was stunned. The woman he had once loved, the woman who had burned bridges and broken hearts in equal measure, now appeared broken herself. The news hit him harder than he expected. Despite all the damage, Eric couldn't ignore the ghost of love that still lingered somewhere in the rubble. Guilt gnawed at him. Guilt for not being there. Guilt for choosing Donna. Guilt for moving on while Quinn's time slipped away. Donna, for her part, felt her world tremble beneath her feet. Her relationship with Eric had always been tenuous, reignited romance built on the ashes of a scandal. But with Quinn back and dying, a seed of doubt grew in her. Would Eric stay with her out of love? Or guilt? Carter, deeply conflicted, walked a tightrope between love, loyalty, and morality. He had married Quinn in a whirlwind, after years of passion that once defied the structure of their lives. And now, with Quinn at death's door, he proposed something unexpected, a tribute fashion show. Last Dance, he called it. A runway celebration of Quinn's final, unfinished jewelry designs. A way to honor her, immortalize her artistry, and perhaps allow her to say goodbye on her own terms. The Forrester team, torn but compelled, reluctantly agreed. The spectacle was intimate, emotional, soaked in glamour and shadowed by grief. Models walked under soft lights, adorned with Quinn's unreleased pieces, gleaming metals curved like crescent moons, gemstones carved with the precision of a woman who knew she was running out of time. In the front row, Eric sat beside Donna, stoic. Carter stood backstage, managing every cue. And Quinn watched from the wings, quiet, radiant, a tragic queen awaiting her curtain call. Then, she collapsed. Backstage chaos erupted. Paramedics rushed in. Carter was the first to reach her, his trembling hands brushing her cheek. But she was gone. Just like that. Gone. The show ended not with applause, but with sirens. The autopsy came swiftly. The cause of death, cardiac arrest. But not from cancer. From poisoning. Traces of digitalis, an old but lethal cardiac glycoside, were found in her bloodstream. The dose had been recent. And the delivery method? Likely oral. Investigators zeroed in on a single item, a half-finished cup of tea left beside Quinn's dressing room mirror. And the last person seen near it? Donna Logan. Her world fell apart in days. Headlines blared. Forrester matriarch's lover suspected in jewelry designer's poisoning. The Logan sisters scrambled to defend her, but the evidence was damning. Donna had been alone with Quinn briefly, ostensibly to offer condolences. Their rivalry was no secret. Motive? Clear. Opportunity? Uncontested. Eric, torn between rage and disbelief, hired a private investigator, not to protect Donna, but to uncover the truth. Something about Quinn's death didn't sit right with him. The cancer diagnosis had come out of nowhere. No medical records had been shared. No second opinions allowed. And the sudden death. Too dramatic, too on-brand for someone like Quinn Fuller. The investigator worked quietly, digging through hospital records, tracing Quinn's last known contacts. It took weeks, but then the truth came crashing down. Quinn Fuller wasn't dead. She was alive, in Monaco. living under an alias, staying in a luxury apartment rented under a shell corporation. The Digitalis, the show, the death all staged. Her physician? Paid off. The death certificate? Forged. The autopsy report? A manipulated decoy. It was the performance of a lifetime. Quinn hadn't returned to say goodbye. She had returned to stage the ultimate vanishing act. And she hadn't left empty-handed. Quinn smuggled out the copyright and design rights to her final jewelry collection, the same one showcased in Last Dance. With it, she planned to rebrand herself in Europe, launching under a new name, free from the baggage of her Forrester history. Reinvention through rebirth. Death, after all, was the best marketing tool in fashion. But Quinn hadn't acted alone. Carter knew. He had known from the beginning. It was his idea, in part. A last-ditch attempt to protect the woman he loved, to free her from the shadow of her past and give her a clean slate. He believed Eric, sentimental, forgiving Eric, would eventually understand. That once the dust settled and the brilliance of Quinn's new work shone through, all would be forgiven. He was wrong. When Eric learned the truth, his world shattered. The deception wasn't just personal, it was professional. Last Dance had been broadcast live. The designs had generated record buzz. Orders poured in. Then the truth surfaced. The designer wasn't dead. The show was a fraud. The company's credibility, once pristine, now teetered on collapse. Eric sued. Both of them. He filed civil charges against Quinn Fuller for fraud, conspiracy, theft of intellectual property, and reputational damage to Forrester Creations. Against Carter Walton, his own protege and once trusted COO, he filed for breach of fiduciary duty, collusion, and defamation. The courtroom became the battlefield. Eric Forrester, decades into his career, found himself facing down not enemies, but lovers. Quinn on one side, Carter on the other. Each defended themselves with passion and pain. Quinn, in her deposition, painted herself as a visionary. She argued that her death was performance art, a commentary on identity, a method of escaping the cage the Forresters had always built around her. "I was never truly part of your family," she snapped. "I was tolerated. Now I'm free." Carter was more subdued. His voice cracked with regret as he spoke of loyalty, of love, of the impossible position he had been put in. "I tried to do right by her, and by you," he told Eric. "I failed both." Eric, for once, had no poetic retort. No quiet wisdom. Only fury. He told the court, and the world, that betrayal from loved ones cuts deeper than any competitor ever could. He wanted justice, not reconciliation. The trial dragged on for months. The media devoured every moment. Donna stood by Eric, but the strain was evident. Brooke and Katie tried to intervene behind the scenes, hoping to mediate, to bring the family back from the edge. Ridge and Steffi, torn between business and blood, struggled to protect the company legacy. In the end, the court ruled partially in Eric's favor. Quinn was ordered to return the design rights and pay damages. Carter lost his position at Forrester Creations. The brand survived, but its foundation had cracked. Quinn vanished again, this time for real. Whether she returned to Monaco, changed her name again, or truly disappeared, no one knew. Carter retreated from the spotlight, unsure if he would ever recover professionally or personally. And Eric? He stood alone at the top once more. A man who had built empires, weathered scandals, and survived heartbreaks. But even the strongest patriarchs, it seems, are not immune to the aftershocks of love gone toxic. The stage lights dimmed. The applause faded. But the echoes of that last dance still haunted the halls of Forrester Creations. And in soap opera lore, Few acts of betrayal ever truly stay buried. Daphne Rose had never been told no. In every city she lived, every runway she walked, every man who crossed her path, desire bent to her will. She was the embodiment of allure, the kind of woman who could silence a room with a glance. But Carter Walton? He didn't fall. He didn't bend. He didn't chase. And that made her furious. It started innocently enough. Daphne and Carter had shared a flirtation. A few lingering looks, a glass of wine, a night out that flirted with the edges of intimacy. She was sure he felt it too. But when he invited her to his place, and she stepped through the threshold expecting one thing, she got another. Rejection. Not indifference, something worse. Compassion. A man trying to let her down gently while his heart was somewhere else. With hope. Daphne listened as Carter, always honest to a fault, told her there was no future between them. That he had made a mistake, letting anything begin. That Hope was the only woman he wanted. That nothing between them, whatever she thought it was, could ever mean more than what he shared with Hope Logan. The humiliation burned through Daphne like acid. She smiled. She nodded. She left with grace. But that night, something inside her cracked. She couldn't understand it. Hope was still caught in emotional whiplash with Liam. Even Carter himself had accused Hope of harboring feelings for her ex-husband. But when he confronted her, pressed her, begged her for the truth, Hope said what Daphne didn't expect. She didn't want Liam. She wanted Carter. Every moment she spent with him mattered because time was slipping away. Carter was dying. And in that confession, something shifted. The fog of doubt cleared. Carter saw her sincerity. Hope chose him. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. Daphne didn't leave town. At first, she said she would. She made it seem like she was retreating to Paris, to reflect, to get space. But something kept her tethered. Something toxic and sharp and relentless. She told herself she was staying for business, for creative inspiration, for closure. But the truth? She couldn't stop thinking about Carter. It wasn't just attraction. It was obsession. It was the way he looked at Hope. The softness in his voice when he said her name. The kind of affection Daphne had never received, not really. Daphne was used to being chased, not dismissed. She broke hearts. She didn't get hers broken. And now all she could think about was Carter. All she could see was Hope in her way. She watched them. Followed them. Quietly, carefully. She learned Hope's routine. Knew when she worked late, when she visited Brooke, when she stopped by Carter's apartment. She started showing up at Forrester unannounced, making excuses to run into Carter. Always dressed to perfection, always smiling, always pretending everything was fine. But it wasn't. On the surface, Daphne played it cool. She remained poised, charming, seductive even in casual encounters. But beneath that surface, her mind began to spiral. She convinced herself that Hope was manipulating Carter. That Carter was only staying with her out of guilt or fear. That he'd come to his senses eventually. She just had to wait. Be near. Be ready. The tipping point came on May 23rd. In a quiet moment, alone with Carter after a Forrester meeting, Daphne let it slip. A soft tease at first. I don't fall in love, Carter. I make others fall for me. Then a darker admission. I'm not used to heartbreak. I don't handle it well. She laughed when she said it, but her eyes didn't match the sound. Carter noticed. He stepped back. He told her again, calmly but firmly, that there was nothing between them. That she needed to let go. She didn't listen. That night, she went home and tore apart the sketches she'd been working on. Threw a glass against the wall. Screamed into her pillow. And made a decision. She wouldn't go back to Paris. Not yet. Not until Carter realized the truth that he belonged with her. That she was the better choice. That Hope didn't deserve him. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Daphne seemed to vanish from Forrester's orbit. But it wasn't over. She was watching. Planning. She followed Hope. Not closely enough to be noticed, but just enough. Learned the codes to the Forrester private wing. Installed a GPS tracker on Carter's car. Hacked into his security cam feed using a tech-savvy friend with no questions asked. Hope, of course, sensed something. A chill in the air. The feeling of being watched. Doors she was sure she locked were found ajar. Texts to Carter that didn't send. Minor things. Dismissed at first. But it grew. Subtle sabotage. Flowers meant for Hope never arrived. Meetings with important clients were mysteriously canceled. Photos of Hope and Carter sent to tabloid journalists, cropped to look like arguments. Nothing traceable, but all disruptive. Daphne was careful, calculated, and completely detached from the reality of what she was doing. To her, it wasn't sabotage. It was strategy. Then came the night of the charity gala. Hope and Carter arrived hand in hand, radiant. The Forrester family was present. Brooke beamed. Even Liam showed up, distant but respectful. And somewhere in the crowd, watching from the shadows, was Daphne Rose. Dressed in black, her hair pinned up, uninvited, unnoticed. Until she wasn't. She approached Carter on the terrace. Alone. "You look happy," she said. Carter stiffened. "What are you doing here?" "Just wanted to see for myself," she murmured. "If you really believe she's the one." "I do. You need to go." "I could have given you more," Daphne said, voice low. "You just didn't give us a chance." "There was never an us, Daphne." Her eyes shimmered. Not with tears, but with rage. Later that night, Hope's drink was found to be laced with sedatives. She never drank it. Brooke, unknowingly, spilled it during a conversation. But it was tested. Quietly. And the suspicion grew. No proof. No witnesses. But everyone suspected. Carter confronted Daphne once more. She denied everything. Smiled again. But this time, her eyes were empty. "I told you, Carter," she said. "I don't fall in love. But when I do, things get messy." The threat hung in the air. From that moment on, Carter and Hope lived under quiet fear. They changed their locks. Changed their patterns. Hired private security. But they also stayed strong, united. Daphne, meanwhile, drifted further into the shadows of her own obsession. Some nights, she'd park across from Carter's apartment and just sit in her car, watching. Other nights, she'd walk past Hope's house, leaving a single rose on the doorstep. No note. No signature. Just a symbol. The story hasn't ended. Not yet. Because Daphne isn't finished. Not until Carter sees what she sees. Not until Hope disappears from the picture. Permanently. And on the bold and the beautiful, obsession always finds a way to explode.